Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of Paranormal Living with me, your host, Jared Warne. Welcome everybody to this very special episode this week. I had the privilege of interviewing spiritual medium Jeanette Greenough, who is from Blackpool. So within this episode you will hear her story, how she started her work with spirit, her first experiences through to obviously present day and everything in between. It's absolutely fascinating. But just before we do get into this week's episode, I just want to say a big thank you again to Jeanette for taking her time out to be a part of Paranormal Living and come share her story with us. You know, we really do appreciate it, and thank you again, Jeanette. Also, guys, we are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. The link to all our socials is in the description below at Paranormal Living. It's pretty straightforward to find, so make sure you do check us out if you haven't come across to the socials. And of course, we are sponsored by Paranormal Technology, who are based in Northern Ireland. Mark and his team have all your equipment needs. So make sure you go check them out. Again, the link to their Facebook page is in the description below. And as many of you have seen on our live investigations, all our equipment is from there. And it's absolutely fantastic. So make sure you do go check them out, guys, and have a look at all the equipment he does have. So without further ado, it is time to get into this week's episode. This is my interview with Jeanette Greenough. We're going to start obviously from the beginning. So where did your journey start with working with spirit?
I actually, if you mean physically working, I would say around the age of 16.
Yeah.
And from a child, knew that I was different. I would always go in old people's houses and have an natter to them and have a cup of when I lived in Watson Road. I was born in Blackpool, in Watson Road. And I used to go, I was different from other kids, if that makes sense. So sometimes I struggled getting on with other kids because I used to see things around them.
Right. If
they were happy, if they were unhappy. But at that time, I didn't understand what that was. I was very, very sensitive.
Yeah.
Pick up things very easy. And then when I was 16, I started seeing spirit. I saw spirit as a child, but couldn't understand it then. But at 16, I was seeing spirits and talking to spirits, having nightmares, being scared of the dark, all that, you know. And then obviously I had to then go to work and, you know, get a life. I think there's got to be a balance between your material life and your spiritual life, without a doubt. And then when I was 25, then again it became very, very strong. When I was 35, it just switched on. It was like a light just switched on. I'd seen angels, I'd seen spirit walking about, you know. So once I got it sorted out, I walked into the Spiritualist Church in Blackpool, and as I walked in the door, because I needed help, I didn't know how to switch it off, and I didn't understand that you had to make the two worlds separate in a way, and to learn to switch it off and switch it on when it was needed. And when I walked into the Spiritualist Church, I remember the president saying to me, he says, I've been waiting for you to come in. I nearly ran out the door again because I was, you know. So, but as I sat down then, the palpitations came, the sweatness came, the excitement came. I was seeing things, and I just knew I was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And that church helped me an awful lot.
Oh, wow.
An awful lot. Then I realised then it was channeling it the right way. I was safe. And everything started sorting out for them. And then I'd have a little night with my mates, and they'd all come round, and I'd get me little playing cards out, and I switched my playing cards to what I saw. Then 3 months later they were saying, I found this out from family, I found out, and you were right. And then I panicked because it was like people's lives, if that makes sense. I was scared of building somebody's hopes up and it not happen, or I'd got the information wrong. But touch wood, spirit have never let me down, so I'm hoping I've not let them down either.
Oh, that is absolutely amazing. What a journey. You know, when obviously it originally happened, because I did read, was it the age of 2 you had your first experience of seeing spirit?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
How was that?
It was a bit naughty, really, because I was sat in a pram in the front garden of the house, and this photograph was being taken by my mum. And I remember the photograph to this day where my mum was stood.
Yeah.
My mum and my father now are in spirit. But my mum and my father were having an argument in the garden. Now, when you look at this old photograph, which I don't know where it is now, there's nothing on the outside of the pram.
Yeah.
But I heard Spirit say, he will be leaving. He will be leaving. And my dad did leave us when I was 6. My brothers were 4, my sister was 2. And he did leave us, but I heard all this. I was speaking to Spirit then.
Yeah, wow.
Out aloud, and I knew what I was trying to say to them at 2 years old. Stop arguing. But I couldn't, because I didn't know how to say stop arguing.
Yeah.
But it was there, if that makes sense. It was like Spirit was saying to them, stop arguing.
Yeah.
But it's just a phase they had to go through. You know, and you know, and in the house, I used to think that somebody was round the door, or somebody was in the loft, or somebody was in the bathroom, and spiritually, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just knew that there was somebody in the house. When I look back, there were guardians looking after me, or and everybody has a spiritual helper looking after them. And when I realised now, it was the person looking after me that I was actually seeing. So once you get older and you suss it all out and you get information from Spirit more, then it just all gels together.
Yeah. So I had a very similar experience when I was younger. I was about 3 or 4, and I always used to see this lady stand in the doorway of my bedroom. And to this day, I still don't know who she is. I just remember, obviously, this oldest lady with that permed hair. But yeah, I had that similar experience, really bizarre.
I would say my gut feeling is it'd be one of your relatives going back who was looking after you, connected to family, without a doubt.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, either great grandma or one before that, because we don't die, we survive, you know, and they come back as how they were. So that's how we know
it makes a lot of sense, that, just because I've always felt, to my granddad's parents, I always felt close to them, even though I never met them, and obviously they passed before obviously I was born. But yeah, I always had a strange connection, you know, seeing the pictures. There's always a connection there, which is pretty...
Well, you've got to remember that you've chosen your life, and you would have known them before you come down, because we've all come from Spirit. So you would have met them, and they would have said Tara to you, because they said, good luck on the airplane, we'll look after you.
Yeah.
So that's the link that you would have had. Yeah.
Oh, that's... Yeah. It's such a lovely thing. I love everything about, obviously, the spiritualism and the mediumship and stuff. It's such a lovely gift. When, I know obviously you mentioned when you was younger, obviously having these experiences within the house, was it quite a regular occurrence, or was it happened, then it might take a break and then come back? How did it sort of work for yourself?
From what I can remember, because we had to move quite a few times, it was an experience that broke off maybe, but it was still there. But I was... You know, you've got to do your schooling, you've got to grow up and everything. And then it left me in this, I would say, the secondary school. Because then you have to get on with your work, don't you? You have to learn, and you've got your exams and everything. And then that's when Spirit back off from you to let you get on with this. And as I say, when I left school at the age of 16, I was working in a butcher's actually at the age of 14. You've just fetched a memory back. And it was like a night job and a weekend job when I was off school. And that's where I learned to count, because there was no tills.
All right, okay.
You know, and then all the customers were lined up, and I could have told you which one was having money problems. And a lady came to the counter, but I knew she was expecting, but I couldn't say anything. Yeah. And then an old man came, and, you know, it's happened a couple of times that where I thought, that old man's going home. Yeah. Because I call it, we all go home.
Yeah, all lovely.
The Spirit, we all go home. And I just knew, but obviously I could never say. And then I'd know when somebody were poorly. Yeah. You know, so, it's never left me when I look back and you've asked me that question.
Did you manage to share any experiences with your mother, or obviously I know your dad passed when you was quite young. Did they have any sort of belief into this?
My mum was quite frightened of it, really. Yeah. So I never spoke about it to my mum, because in them days you didn't. Yeah. I think, you know, I'm 63, so a few more years before that they would have put me in a straitjacket at home. So, you know, you never said anything. But I remember I was married the first time, and we went looking for a house, and I'll never forget it. It was the Halifax Building Society and the Halifax estate agents. And I'd gone in a property in Blackpool, and it was empty. And when I got upstairs and me and my husband had gone into the bedroom, and I remember him saying, oh, this is a good-sized bedroom. Yeah. And the estate agent was behind me. And I was about 19 then. I was only very young when I got married. And I saw this massive wooden bed with a lady in it, and a hat and a knitted crocheted bed hat. And she just smiled at me, nodded. And I said, to me it was just so natural. And I went, when's the lady moving out the house? Well, before I knew what had happened, that estate agent was down out the front of the house, out the front door, sat on the wall. And my husband's going, oh, not again. I said, well, she's there. I said, she's there. And she stayed there till I went. But to me, it was a real thing. Yeah. It was so real. And she even had all the crochet covers on them and the flouncy pillows with the lace on them and everything, you know. Wow. And you don't forget things like that. No. It sticks in your head all the time. Yeah. So I've had my experiences.
Yeah. When you see spirit, because obviously you work clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient.
I do.
I do. When you physically see spirit, is it sometimes like a video clip, or is it like you just mentioned, it's solid, as if they're exactly in the room?
It's not like you. But what happens in my private readings, I do it different. I use spirit come forward, but I use my cards and make sure everybody's okay and get me all their answers. Mm-hmm. When I do a show, I will say a show because they are. Yeah. In churches, they are stand-up mediumship as well. So I do the both. But in a show, it's different because I'll say I'm in that area there, and spirit queue up. Right. They queue up. They know they have to ask permission to come forward. Yeah. So they come in a line on my right-hand side. Now, if I look right, they disappear. But if my head stays focused to where I'm going, then I see the shape of the person. It's like a shadow. Yeah. And then I go to the height and the width, and that's how I can explain, and then they tell me how they passed. Mm-hmm. So that there is the spiritual evidence, which is what is so important today, the spiritual evidence of it. So yes, I do, but not how you think. The one I saw when the bed was like she were there. Yeah. When I'm working, it's different. And then when that person is linked with the person I'm going to, and they're happy, they walk away and the next member of the family comes in. Yeah. So it's just like a little trolley journey, really, in Morrison's. Yeah. It's just like next one. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Same with obviously clairaudient as well. Do you physically hear them? How does it work, clairaudient? Because I've never experienced that myself.
Right, clairaudience isn't a physical thing. What you do, you hear it in your mind. Yeah. But it's like it's in your ear. Right, I can hear them talking, and sometimes I'll hear a conversation going, basically from my guides. Yeah. And sometimes I'll hear them say, how can I put this? Bear with me 1 minute, because I'm trying to work out how it works with me.
Yes. Okay.
And then all of a sudden, the person that's passed doesn't give me their name. My guide gives me their name. Right. Yeah. Just because everyone's got, I'll say an FM link. Just let's say 65.5 FM. Everybody has to get to that link with the world of spirit. Right. Okay, not physically, by the way. Yeah. Tuning into 65 FM and then getting open for a spirit to come through. But no, what happens? That you all have to have that link. Yeah. So I've not maybe got 100% link on the person coming forward to talk to. Yeah. So it's my guide that I do have the 65.5 FM link on, and he gives me what I have to say. Mm-hmm. And that is how it all works.
Wow, yeah. Oh,
and the clairsentience is another gentleman that works with me, and then my hands go. And then everybody should be aware of the hands, actually. Mm-hmm. Because if they're working with hands and they hold the wrist or they hold the neck or they touch the chest or the legs and they're like this and they go like that, is it a vase? Yeah. Be aware of the clairsentience. It's very important because spirit is showing you things as well. Yeah. And telling you things. The person passed with this. they had a necklace, they had a watch, they had this, and then things sometimes can be missed.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned, because like I mentioned obviously before we started recording, about going to the awareness class and things.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I learned, because in the, like, you know, 3-4 years ago, I wouldn't pay attention to what I was doing. And then all of a sudden, it's like, there is something in my hand, and then you're looking and you're doing crazy things with your hands.
That's right. Yeah, people don't realise it takes a lot of spirits to work with you on your own.
Yeah.
You know, when you come working fully like everybody that's like myself, there's a good 14, 21 working with me in one show.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, that's when it's, so, you know, when somebody's learning at the beginning, they give them one guide to see how far they're going to go.
Yeah.
When your gift gets more, then you get 2 guides, 3 guides, 4 guides. So it takes a long time and trust from spirit to develop the gifts, because you can't do it all at once.
Yeah. They always start the saying that you don't run before you can walk.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about as well, obviously doing my research things, at the age of 19, obviously you passed to the world of spirit, which obviously suffering a severe asthma attack. Are you able to sort of share with us your experience on that?
Yes, I was with my first husband at the time, and I came home from work and I weren't very well. My breathing, I didn't realise I suffered with anything, to be fair. And when my husband came home, I was on the settee and I was gasping for my breath. And in the meantime, he actually phoned 999, and the ambulance man came in, and he looked at my husband because I couldn't speak.
Yeah.
And he says, "Don't worry, lad, we'll get her back." And next minute, the oxygen mask came on my face. But as I did that, and I looked up above the right-hand side of the ceiling, and I started floating out my body.
Wow.
And I held onto the ceiling with my hand palms on the ceiling, and I said, "What are you doing? I'm not ready. I want to have a life and have children and enjoy myself. You're taking me too soon." But then I woke up in Blackpool Victoria Hospital.
Wow.
I didn't know anything of the journey or anything. And that experience I had to have.
Yeah.
Because when people are suffering with bereavement, that experience actually taught me there's no pain. The love I felt up in that ceiling was absolutely fantastic.
Wow.
Now, what happened between the ceiling and the hospital, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I felt as if it was like, "Jeanette, you've come down for this. We're telling you that," you know, that's how I felt. That as if somebody was telling me, "This is your experience to help others when they're bereavement or they're going home to the world of spirit."
Yeah.
Because I have sat with many people and held a hand while they've gone over to the other side. And sometimes I've actually seen a person hold a hand out and go.
Wow.
And they've just gone. And without that experience, I can't tell them what's going to happen. And that's what it was for.
Wow, that's
touch wood, no asthma. Very little, thank you.
That's phenomenal. It's just quite emotional listening to you talk about it, because you know, some people do have a bit of a fear of obviously death.
Yes.
And then sometimes we all go through that thing of we doubt things, and you're like, is that it? And you know what we're here for, and you know, just talking about that then, and I don't know, it just sent like a shiver through my body or something. Honestly, it really resonated with me.
You know, you just know you can't lie about this. It's either there or it isn't. You can't exaggerate it, because that feeling lives with you. And if I give you that feeling that nobody's nothing to fear when they go over to the other side, because this is our learning ground, this is where we learn, this is what we've come down for. And then when you go home to the spirit world, no matter what age you are, then it's because you've learned what you've learned and your lessons are over.
Yeah.
You know, they're free. I always explain to everybody when they've gone over to the world of spirit, they're happy. They're going to have a massive party. They meet everybody. But us here have the bereavement. Now, if we can help people cope with bereavement, they never get over it, but become stronger, then we've done our job.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've done our job. Yeah.
I totally agree there.
Yeah.
I know, again, obviously it did happen quite a few years later, didn't it, that you ended up going back to the world of spirit for another experience, was it?
I did. I was with my second husband, who I'm with now.
Yeah.
And my body just did a total breakdown. Oh. And my husband saved my life. And he pounded on my chest. I collapsed back on the bed.
Yeah.
And I just thought, if this is it, I've got to go.
Yeah.
If this is my time. And as I left the bed, but then I came back with a jolt.
Right.
I didn't go up to the ceiling, I just came back with a jolt. But again, it's like this spirit leaving the body. Mm-hmm. It's the most easy thing and painless thing and loving thing that happens. It's like, oh my. And then all of a sudden I come back with this jolt, and I thought, nope, I have to be here a bit longer yet and go through some more lessons. Mm-hmm. So then I ended up back in hospital, and it sorted me out, so
Wow, that's phenomenal. And obviously you mentioned then it's such an amazing experience, like what you were saying about it's helping people as well, because you know what to expect, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. Do you think that as well has made your gift stronger as well?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I've actually taken a few funeral services in my time.
Right, okay.
For quite a few friends that are spiritual and wanted a different service. They didn't want it religious, they wanted it different, with a bit of laughter in it and everything. And I remember one of the first ones that I actually took, I got smacked. I'm going to be talking dismal, but I'm not dismal, if that makes sense. Okay. But I was in the front of the coffin, walking forward, and as I walked to the forward, at the corner of the crematorium, an angel came down on the right-hand side with her arms folded. And I looked, you've got to remember, I'm taking this service, seeing all this, and I'm like, oh my God. And as this angel came down on the right-hand side, she stood then, as I'm carrying on walking, she then got to the ground floor. And as she opened her arms, the angel wings came out. The person that passed then walked from the angel to between me and the coffin. And I was like, and by this time I had to walk up on the pulpit. Yeah. She was behind me. Then everyone came in, and as the undertaker shut the door, her wings just literally went over everybody, joined together, came down, and all the mist just disappeared. It was phenomenal. Wow. Phenomenal. And again, that was to teach me that we did go to our own funerals. Yeah. We did come and say ta to everybody till we all meet. I've heard that of
quite a few people who've had different meetings, have had experiences by that, like gone to funerals and they've seen the person within the service.
That's right. That's right. Yes, which is lovely. Yeah, that's just lovely.
Oh, absolutely. Obviously, you're moving forward again. Obviously, then you start. Now you as a working medium yourself. What was it that took you that step to say this is what I'm going to do now?
Well, again, Albert Road Spiritualist Church. Yeah. I stood up, and I remember the chair lady saying to me, she'd been around everybody, and I was absolutely beetroot red. Yeah. And this chairperson said, "You've got something," and all of a sudden I stood up. Well, my friend that was with me was like looking at me and say, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I have to come to that gentleman there." Now, with mediums, we very rarely remember our messages. Yeah. But this, because it was one of my first ones, it stuck. Yeah. And I went to this medium and I said, "You're going to America, your mother's here," and and she's saying she loves you and you know you miss her and everything like that. And then I sat down, it was like relief, it was like, yeah. And I had to come out at speed. My mediumship is very fast. I can't help it. Yeah. And then this person came up to me at the end of the night and just said, "You was correct with everything." Mm-hmm. And he said it was fantastic. Then I got the confidence then. I was going to open circles. Yeah. I was going to all the churches then. And everything just grew. It's like somebody had asked me somewhere else and somebody had asked me somewhere else. And then I did something really unusual, which was 15 years ago. I actually got invited into a restaurant to help them do a spiritual night, which I did. somebody was there at that night because it was a smaller one, asked to go to a bigger one, and I've done the venue now in Cleves, which I finished last year because I've done 14 years.
Oh, wow.
I felt as if it was ready for a change,
Yeah.
and I was working there. So a lot of people was unsure about me working in there, but I said them people are never going to go in a spiritual church, ever.
Yeah.
You know, so some of them might have done, but 90% of them didn't want to go into a spiritualist church. So that at the beginning, and to build it up from being like a, drinking night, to a listen night. And then when all the families started coming through, it grew and grew and grew. And today, that is where I am, which is where I feel at home. I feel at home on theatre stages, I really do.
Yeah.
I go on there and I'm just ready for work.
Does it, when you go to do a service or one of your shows, pre-hand, do you go into like a meditation? How does it work for you? Or...
Yes, I do, but I have my meditation at home
in
the afternoon if I'm working at night. And then if I go to a church, I'm ready prepared.
Yeah.
If I'm going to a bigger venue or theatre, then I ask them to leave me alone for 30 minutes. I don't speak to anybody.
Yeah.
Again, I go back to my group, and then I go out, and again, I'm ready for work.
Yeah. Oh, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it is.
Going into investigations, what was the first investigation you did?
My first one, besides a private house, was Salisbury Hall.
Oh, wow, I'd love to go there.
It was fantastic. And there was quite a few of us filming.
Yeah.
And the night was phenomenal. We were having children. And the curator at the time was a medium friend of mine, Gordon Walsh.
Yeah.
He was the caretaker of Salisbury Hall. And we were sat waiting to work together because Gordon and myself do charity nights at Salisbury Hall, again, which is one is on next year, so that will come through on my page. And I just said to him, a lady's just passed in a white gown and everything. Oh, he says, that's such and such, we've named her that. And I just literally saw her walk through, and he said, she's come through that wall. I said, yeah. And he said, yeah. So I said, do you want to come back and have a walk round one night and see what you get? So I said, I'd love to. And when I went back the second time, I said to him, I've got all the children. That's why I call myself Jeanette the Gift. Not because I'm better than anybody else, but my gift with the children seems to be very, very strong. Yeah. To help parents with children. So what happened that night, I was stood by the big stone fireplace and held my hands out. I said, all the children, Gordon, are holding my hands and they're singing Ringa Ringa Roses. And he just went, oh my God, Jeanette. He said, once a month all the staff get together and sing Ringa Ringa Roses to the children. Wow. I said, well, they're all here. They'd mentioned the rose garden outside where there was children, obviously, and then they just buried them in the gardens, didn't they, and what have you. So a lot of information came and we had a fantastic night. Then I was filmed there with Paul Humphreys, and we did a filming then. Then we did another filming with another group, which I can't talk about because that's something in the future. Yeah. We've had a good time. Yeah, it's been excellent. Oh, I've had a filming done. I've got to mention Walton Hall actually in Liverpool. Oh, okay. Walton Hall in Liverpool has been derelict for a long, long time. It was bought by somebody in the 70s, so it was very mixed match of decor and everything, and dilapidated, I want to say the word is. And when I went to the front door of this and walked in, I heard the children go, she's here, she's here, she's here, as loud as anything. Wow. And I was like, oh my God, and I got all excited and palpitations, and I went, how do you know I'm coming in? They said, they told us. And that ripped. So I went in, even now my hairs are all stood on my arms. And when I went in, all these children were running around me, and then they started filming and saying, what do you see? And I said, that room was a hospital, and done all this information. And then at the end of the night, I asked Paul and Penny to film me while I'm just mobile phones.
Yeah.
I said, I want to dance with the children. I said, will you just see what happens? And I stood there, it was freezing, it was 12 o'clock at night, I've got my boots on, I've got my big leather coat, my big coat, my collar on, I was trying to keep warm, and I just jigged like that. I says, come on then, let's have a dance. And next minute, all these orbs started flying everywhere. Wow. Loads of orbs. And that's going on my webpage as well.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then I was smelling fire, and I kept saying to him, does anybody smell fire? I can smell burning. And I was going, no. 2 weeks later, after we'd been there, I got a phone call from David Lee, who was running it, and he says, Jeanette, part of Walton Hall got burnt down by vandals, and the police wanted to know who's the last person in. And I said, well, Spirit must have been telling me there was going to be a fire.
Yeah.
So that was phenomenal as well. And walking in, and the children that were there were well looked after, and so we helped a few children go to the other side as well. We got them going towards the light, and off they went.
That's phenomenal. With rescues, obviously you mentioned then about the children. Have you done quite a lot of them over your time as a working medium?
I have. Well, me and my husband's a trance medium.
Oh, okay.
He's not doing very much today because he's not been so good.
Yeah.
But we went all the way to Carlisle to help a family, and they've been renovating a farmhouse. And when we went in, this couple never met us or anything. They've got 2 young children. Yeah. The children were being woke up at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning screaming. Cutlery drawers were coming out. Things were being moved and doors being slammed and everything. I said, well, I know you don't know us, but we're just going to ask you to take the kids out for an hour and leave us.
Yeah.
We got 2 chairs and the water and did our prayer. And next minute, the person that had passed actually came into Colin. That's how gifted he's been in his own right. Yeah. And he just kept saying, the Spirit kept saying, I'm sorry. And I just want somebody. But what was happening, he could see them wondering what they were doing to the farm.
Yeah.
But they couldn't see him. So his frustration,
he
was lost. Frustration, he was just doing things not to frighten them, to help him set him free.
Yeah.
They gave us a lot of evidence, Spirit. The man didn't want to go with his mum and dad and his family. But all of a sudden, he said, hey, missus, I'm going to see my pet cow. And that's it. He went back to the world of spirit with his pet cow. And that's why he missed the light, because he didn't want to leave his animals.
Yeah.
And when we found out that he'd done an injury to his head, the lady of the house went to do her own investigation, and he was called George. He did fall near his gate, but he fell on a fork, unfortunately. Oh, wow. And that is why he got confused about which way to go. He saw his house and thought he had to go back there and just missed that little light. Yeah. So he was confused. Anyway, all happy days. Yeah. The couple have had nothing since. Oh, and George has come back with his pet cow to see me sometimes. Saying thank you. He has. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is good. Yeah.
Oh, finally, my final question for you this afternoon is: what does the future hold for yourself?
For myself, I actually don't see anything for myself. Jared, I always see for other people.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think that we're able to go back to the venues again, get people learning again. Yeah. Okay, it's all right, it's my work, but we still do a lot for charity.
Yeah.
You know, and I always believe what goes around comes around. So if you do good, it should come good. So I'm hoping I can help. I've got 2 charities in mind for next year, but I don't want to say anything yet because I'm not approaching them. I pick 2 charities every year who I'm going to help. And then, with a bit of luck, we'll be back in the theatres doing the work and getting on with our job. Connecting spirit with their families.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for taking time out to obviously speak to me.
You're welcome.
This morning, it's been absolutely amazing.
One thing I must tell you, Jared, right, before we leave, that nobody can demand from the world of spirit.
Yeah.
Nobody. Everybody accept the gift as it comes work with it and be proud of it, and you've been chosen, and it's lovely.
Thank you so much.
All right. God, you take care, Darren.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much.